Hold up, why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bet.
Welcome back, y'all. This is the Miscellaneous Minds Podcast. I'm your host, Jesus Dinero, here with my co-host,
Puma El Gato.
What do we got going on tonight, my man?
We're talking about Better Be It versus Bivol. This is the sequel fight. Let's talk about it.
You know, in the lead up to this fight, I'd seen a number of things that kind of makes me think things might be slightly different this time around. I've watched a couple different interviews with Bivol, and the way that he's coming at this fight, I think Bivol has the mentality of, this is my last shot. So the normal cautious Bivol that we saw in the previous fight, where yes, he was still picking good spots, where he was still getting in there and doing some work, I feel like we're going to see that go by the wayside just a little bit, and I feel like Bivol is going to take much more risk than this one. Now, normally Bivol is a very tactful, very patient, very astute fighter, and I don't think he's going to throw any of that away, but I think he realizes that if he loses again, people aren't, you can only chalk one up to an error. You can't chalk up more, two. So I think Bivol knows that this is his last shot at being undisputed. And if Better BF does get the better of him this time around, I'm pretty sure Bivol knows that that's going to be a wrap for him. Now, with that being said, that could be the perfect play for Bivol. I'm sorry, for Better BF. Better BF is known as very tactful himself. He picks his spots very well, and the difference is he's got a lot of power behind those punches. Better BF, in all reality, could potentially really upset Bivol's plan, because if Bivol does get a little bit too reckless and a little bit too open with his moves, a little bit too open with his uppercuts, his hooks, his combinations that he does, he could leave himself open, and Better BF is definitely going to stomp that fire out if that does happen. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's going to be a shutout for Better BF. However, I do believe that, again, given the urgency that Bivol is going to be experiencing, I do believe that the fire should be lit under Bivol, and his back's up against the wall, man. His back's up against the wall. Now, as far as the moves, we went over their particular styles, their particular mannerisms, and what they like to do in the previous one. So I really just want to focus more on the character of these two going in. Better BF knows that he won the first one, obviously, but I've never found Better BF to be a cocky dude in the sense of, I won, so I got this one in the bag. I don't believe that at all. I believe Better BF knows that, yes, he did win, but I think he knows it was close. And with that being said, I do believe that Better BF is going to go in with the same mentality that he went in with the first one, which is what won him the fight in the first place. Again, I do believe Bivol is more up against it than Better BF is, and hopefully that doesn't cause Bivol to make too many mistakes. I do think that we could potentially see a Bivol win this time around. Last time, we had also predicted a Bivol. At least I had predicted a Bivol win. And I did believe that he was going to be the one taking the dub, which, clearly I was wrong on that one, and Better BF took it. But it was close enough of a fight where I wouldn't be mad no matter, if either dude would have taken it. So I wasn't mad that Better BF won. Bivol really does have a lot of great tools that he can pull out the tool bag to win this one. Again, I just think, there's a chance he's going to get a little bit too reckless, a little bit too open with his moves, a little bit too open with his combinations, and that in itself is going to be what's going to potentially give Better BF a more solid win than the first one. There wasn't too many things in the first one that Bivol didn't do that I wanted to see him do. Same thing with Better BF. I feel like they both executed their plans very effectively. Bivol was picking his spots as he always does. Better BF was mounting the pressure constantly. There was one or two times where I believe Better BF caught Bivol in the first one, and I think that's going to be opened a little bit more this time around. I feel like there's going to be a few more chances that Better BF is going to get those potential clutch points in the match. Whereas Bivol, I feel like Bivol is going to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more, pushing the pace, so to speak, even though I do believe Better BF is going to be the aggressor. And because of that, I do think Bivol can set himself up for a potential win. I'm going to predict a Bivol win this time around, but listen, because of that recklessness that I potentially see Bivol putting himself in, because of the nature of the fight, because of, again, Bivol's back being up against the wall, I do believe that Better Biev has a much bigger chance this time around to potentially clutch a knockdown. I don't think he'll knock Bivol out, but definitely maybe secure a knockdown somewhere in the fight, which could be what could, tilt it in Better Biev's favor. But what do you think about that, my man?
Listen, I've said this before in the post-fight after we've seen the first fight, and I'll say it again right now. I said that Bivol acted a little bit uncharacteristically in the first round, considering the fact that he was playing a lot more defensively, whereas Better Biev seemed to be playing much more of the aggressor. And I understand your point that Bivol definitely does have a little bit of a risk going to this match, which means he might play a little bit reckless because he realizes that this second fight might be his last fight if he's not going to be careful with it. Where I would argue, however, is that Better Biev was physically up against the wall in the first fight. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, let's rewind back to when the fight originally was going to happen. Originally, the fight was going to happen in July or June sometime last year, and apparently that had to get rescheduled because Better Biev actually suffered from an ACL tear, which means that fight had to be postponed to late November, if I remember correctly. Now, having said that, Better Biev would actually have more of a reason to actually be on the bit more of a defensive side, considering the fact that he had just come off an injury. Knowing what we know now, the fact that he was fresh off an injury, he still was the aggressor most of the fight. So it stands to reason if Better Biev is like that coming fresh off an injury, I can only imagine when Better Biev is going to be like coming not off an injury at all in the second fight. If anything, the fact that he's well rested, well refreshed, that injury is a year's memory from now, I do think he's actually going to perform at least a little bit better. Or again, I could be wrong. Another angle that I could see going here is the fact that if he thinks in his mind, okay, I won this fight off of a broken ACL just repaired, I think I can take it easy in the next fight. I can understand there's an angle in which he might get complacent, but again, given that in Better Biev's nature or character, I don't necessarily see that happening. But again, I reiterate, the fact that Better Biev was coming off with that aggressive, fresh off in an injury, I think Bivol actually stands to have a much more steeper hill going into the second fight than he did in the first fight. Now, as far as a prediction goes, of the two, I'm still going to bet hard money on Better Biev taking in the W in this next fight. But what do you think about my personal assessment?
Listen, man, Better Biev's never struck me as a guy to take it easy. He's never struck me as a guy to fall on his morals. So I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. I do, one thing that you did bring up that I do agree with is, I had completely forgotten the fact that he had an injury and then obviously they had to postpone the fight. So that's a good point to bring up. Hopefully this time around, Better Biev doesn't have any sort of injuries. But again, he is the much older fighter in comparison to Bivol. I know when we say much older, we're talking about 2 or 3 years. But I mean, in boxing, that's like a lifetime. So with that being said, I do agree with you that Better Biev stands a better chance if he doesn't come in injured this time around. But listen, again, the fact there's going to be a sense of urgency that I believe Bivol is going to be showing because this is his last shot. If he doesn't have a standout performance, he's not gonna, he's not ever gonna get a shot, at least at this champion again. And to that end, I believe that Bivol also wants to prove, hey, look, because of all the questions that got brought up, I should have been the winner in the first time around. I feel like that's another sense of urgency that's going to be added on top of everything else. But listen, it's going to be a phenomenal fight either way. It's going to be a great fight. I think there's not as much hype for this one just because, again, we saw last time, second time around, just like there wasn't as much hype for the second Usyk and Fury fight. As there was for the first one. A little bit of that dies down, but for the hardcore boxing fans, it's going to be another classic performance, I'm sure, by both of these guys. And it'll be interesting to see what happens, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great fight, and I'm sure we'll be tuning in just like a lot of y'all. And with that, make sure to like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM us about the bullshit, and
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you on the next one.